Kamusta at magandang gabi? Ako ay si Tito Goby. And tonight I have a slight cold, but I still want to do this video. It's about Iran and what has happened in the past week, so we'll try to break it down.
April 1st, President Trump delivers a primetime address, claiming Operation Epic Fury has decimated Iran's military.
We're going to hit them extremely hard over the next 2 to 3 weeks. We're going to bring them back to the Stone Ages where they belong. In the meantime, discussions are ongoing. Regime change was not our goal. We never said regime change, but regime change has occurred because of all of their original leaders' death. If during this period of time no deal is made, we have our eyes on key targets. If there is no deal, we are going to hit each and every one of their electric generating plants very hard and probably simultaneously. We have not hit their oil, even though that's the easiest target of all, because it would not give them even a small chance of survival or rebuilding. But we could hit it, and it would be gone.
April 2nd, Iran launched a barrage of missiles and drones targeting Israel, Bahrain, and other Gulf states in defiance of Trump's claims.
Iran has issued what seems to be a direct response to President Trump's address to the nation last night, and it is typically fiery. A spokesman for Iran's military command said in a statement addressing the US and Israel this morning, quote, "This war will continue until you experience humiliation, permanent regret and inevitable surrender." Now, that's obviously in contrast to the time frame that President Trump suggested last night, saying the war could continue for another 2 or 3 weeks. Needless to say, the two sides often give starkly different narratives in this conflict. As you know, Trump has repeatedly claimed that Iran's leaders are eager to do a deal to end the war, while Iran has denied that it is negotiating at all. That Iranian spokesman also claimed that the US and Israel have not destroyed Iran's missile production centers, long-range attack drones and advanced air defense systems, asserting that they are in locations that the US and Israel cannot reach. Now, it's obviously impossible for us to confirm the exact damage done to Iran's military, but it is clear that the US and Israel have been dominant in this conflict and have set Iran back militarily.
April 3rd, a U.S. F-15E Strike Eagle was shot down over southwest Iran, leading to a high-stakes rescue operation for its crew that lasted through the weekend.
CBS News has confirmed U.S. forces rescued one of the 2 crew members of an F-15 that went down over Iran. Social media video showed 2 Black Hawk helicopters and a C-130 in what appeared to be part of the effort.
Operating low and pretty slow in broad daylight over Iran, looking for this downed aircrew. It's the kind of thing you would only do in a situation where you were willing to assume extraordinary risk because your objective was so important, namely saving some lives here.
Iranian media showed wreckage that weapons experts said appeared consistent with an American F-15 as Iran's Revolutionary Guard took credit for shooting down the fighter jet. It happened near the Persian Gulf not far from Karg Island, Iran's main oil hub.
April 6th, Trump held a press conference reiterating threats to decimate Iran's civilian infrastructure, including bridges and power plants, if a deal was not reached by the following evening. Iran initially rejected a Pakistani-brokered proposal.
Today, President Trump urged Iran to accept his ceasefire proposal, quote, before it's too late. But Iranian state media reported Iran rejected Trump's 15-point peace plan and publicly denies talks are underway. Today, Israel says it assassinated the Iranian leader controlling the Strait of Hormuz, who was head of the Iranian Navy. Iran has not confirmed that death, though. Now, the Pentagon is preparing to send as many as 5,000 troops to the Middle East, some already on their way. Among them, 1,500 paratroopers from the elite 82nd Airborne Division. But on Capitol Hill, Democrats and some Republicans are growing uneasy about the prospect of sending in combat troops.
Who wouldn't negotiate? They are begging to make a deal. We'll see if we can make the right deal. And if they make the right deal, then the strait will open up. Hormuz Strait will open up.
April 7th. That morning, Trump posted his most severe warning, stating that if his 8 p.m. Eastern Time deadline passed without a deal, a whole civilization will die tonight.
President Donald Trump set what he is calling his final deadline for Iran to open the Strait of Hormuz. That deadline is tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern time, but overnight and even this morning, strikes in Iran continued. This morning, we're seeing the first reports of strikes on bridges in Iran. Iranian authorities saw airstrikes have taken out a railway bridge, a train station, and a highway bridge in the country. Now, neither the United States nor Israel have immediately claimed those attacks. President Trump is now lobbying new threats at Iran. In just the last hour, he said, in part, quote, "A whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. I don't want that to happen, but it probably will. However, now that we have complete and total regime change where different, smarter, and less radicalized minds prevail, maybe something revolutionarily wonderful can happen."
April 7th, that afternoon, 2 p.m. Iranian officials called on citizens to form human chains around the country's power plants.
Also this morning, the Iranian regime facing new outrage for its vile and disgusting actions, trying to put its own people, including children, in danger in an effort to try and stop these U.S. strikes. Overnight, Tehran posted messages on state-run media calling for Iranian children and students to gather and form human chains around Iran's power plants where Trump had threatened to strike. This mirrors tactics used by Hamas terrorists, hiding civilians in Gaza and using them as human shields during the war following October 7th. It also comes as Iranian leadership continues getting taken out one by one in these targeted U.S. and Israeli operations. Yesterday, the IDF did confirm it killed Majid Kadhimi, a top intelligence figure inside the IRGC.
I was updated by the Chief of Staff that overnight in Tehran, the IDF eliminated Majid Kadhimi, head of the IRGC intelligence organization, one of those directly responsible for these war crimes and one of the three most senior figures in the organization.
Kadhimi was also responsible for monitoring dissent inside Iran and suppressing protests. According to the White House, at least 45,000 Iranians have been killed during protests against the regime in recent months.
April 7th, that evening, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, just 90 minutes before the deadline, Trump announced a 2-week ceasefire after Iran provided a workable 10-point peace proposal.
In a post on Truth Social, the president wrote that after conversations with the Prime Minister of Pakistan, he'd agree to stop attacks on Iran, but only if Iran agrees to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, that critical waterway for 20% of the world's oil supply. This new post came just about an hour and a half before the president's original 8 p.m. deadline for Iran to reopen the strait, or the entire Iranian civilization, quote, would die. As for a long-term peace plan, the president says we're very far from that, but a 10-point proposal from Iran will be the basis for negotiations moving forward. It's not yet certain whether Iran will comply with the president's demands to reopen the strait, or what will happen if they do not.
April 7th, 2 hours after the ceasefire announcement, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, the Israeli military identifies ballistic missile attacks launched directly from Iran. Explosions from interceptions are heard over Tel Aviv and central Israel.
Just minutes after U.S. President Donald Trump announced a ceasefire with Iran, missiles were launched. Yes, you heard that right. A ceasefire declared, and almost immediately ballistic missile alerts across Israel and the Gulf. So what exactly happened? According to reports, Iran launched a fresh wave of ballistic missiles targeting Israel and multiple Gulf countries, including Dubai, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, and Kuwait. In Israel, air raid sirens echoed across several cities. From Haifa to Kiryat zones and even smaller towns, alarms went off warning of incoming threats. The Israeli Defense Forces confirmed that air defense systems were activated and missiles heading towards southern Israel were intercepted. So far, no immediate injuries have been reported. But the situation did not stop at Israel. Across the Gulf, panic alerts followed. Dubai confirmed that its air defense systems were actively engaging missiles and UAV threats. Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and Bahrain also issued warnings, signaling a region-wide alert. The sounds heard across parts of the UAE were linked to active interception operations. Now, the big question everyone is asking, did Iran just violate the ceasefire? Social media platforms quickly filled with reactions. Some users claimed multiple missiles were launched within an hour of the announcement. Others pointed out that ceasefires are often fragile, and violations, while serious, are not entirely uncommon in early stages. But here's the critical detail. As of now, neither the United States nor Iran has officially commented on these latest strikes. That silence is adding to the uncertainty, because if confirmed, this could signal a breakdown of the ceasefire even before it fully began. Or it could be a case of miscommunication, delayed enforcement, or actions by forces outside direct control. Either way, tensions remain extremely high. Missiles in the sky, sirens on the ground, and a ceasefire already under question. The world is watching closely now, because what happens next could decide whether this truce holds or collapses within hours.
April 8th. That morning, 2:30 a.m. to 3 a.m., Iran. Hezbollah launches a large barrage of rockets at northern Israeli settlements, claiming the ceasefire does not apply to them. Iranian cluster munitions are fired toward Tel Aviv and surrounding areas. That afternoon, Operation Eternal Darkness, asserting the ceasefire only applies to Iran, Israel launches its most intensive assault on Lebanon. 50 jets drop 160 bombs on 100 targets in just 10 minutes.
On Wednesday, Israel carried out its heaviest strikes on Lebanon since the conflict with Hezbollah broke out last month. It came even as the Iran-aligned group paused attacks on northern Israel and Israeli troops in Lebanon under a 2-week U.S.-Iran ceasefire. Consecutive explosions shook Beirut, sending smoke billowing across the capital. Israel's military said it had launched the largest coordinated strike of the war. It also said more than 100 Hezbollah command centers and military sites were targeted in Beirut, the Bekaa Valley, and southern Lebanon. The strikes killed dozens and wounded hundreds, according to Lebanon's health ministry. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said overnight that the ceasefire suspending the 6-week-old U.S.-Israeli war against Iran did not apply to Lebanon. And later on Wednesday, White House spokesperson Caroline Leavitt said the U.S. agreed.
Lebanon is not part of the ceasefire. That has been relayed to all parties involved in the ceasefire. As you know, Prime Minister Netanyahu put out a statement last night in support of the ceasefire, in support of the United States' efforts, and he's also assured the president they'll continue to be a helpful partner throughout the course of the next 2 weeks.
However, that position contradicted comments by Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, a key intermediary in the U.S.-Iran ceasefire talks. An Israeli strike on the southern city of Sidon also killed at least 8 people and wounded more than 20 others, according to Lebanon's health ministry. Hezbollah stopped attacking Israeli targets early on Wednesday, 3 Lebanese sources close to the group told Reuters. Israel's military said most of its strikes on Wednesday were in civilian-populated areas. Hours before the strike, they had issued warnings for some areas of southern Beirut and southern Lebanon. No such warning was given for central Beirut, which was also hit. More than 1,500 people have been killed in Israel's air and ground campaign across Lebanon since March 2nd, when Hezbollah started firing rockets at Israel in solidarity with Tehran. Israel has issued evacuation orders covering around 15% of Lebanese territory since then, mostly in the south and in suburbs south of Beirut.
April 9th. Lebanon holds a national day of mourning for the victims of Black Wednesday. Iran threatens to scrap the peace talks unless Israel stops the strikes in Lebanon. Iranian President Pezeshkian confirmed Tehran's participation in upcoming permanent peace negotiations.
Absolutely. So there's been, declared a day of mourning. Local media is also referring to yesterday as Black Wednesday. Now, so searches are continuing all throughout the capital. There's also reports of a building that collapsed today following the strikes of yesterday. Because, quite weak infrastructure in some parts of the city. There's also reports of 5 people stuck under the rubble in another area. They're all likely presumed to be dead now. Another reports of an elderly man and an Ethiopian woman under the rubble that civil defense is still going through. We're looking at over 200 killed, and unfortunately the death toll just keeps climbing.
Meanwhile, there are disputes over whether Lebanon is included in the ceasefire that's halted fighting between the US, Israel and Iran. Can we expect any diplomatic push from the Lebanese government to try to get Israel to halt the bombing?
Well, as I'm sure you can imagine, authorities are absolutely outraged after, continuous calls for open talks with Israel from the President Joseph Aoun, after also being confused, led to believe by Pakistani PM that Lebanon was to be included in the ceasefire deal, only to find out by Netanyahu that that's not the case.
April 10th, Vice President J.D. Vance departed for Islamabad, Pakistan, to lead the U.S. delegation in negotiations for a permanent end to the conflict. Meanwhile, oil prices have held steady and stocks wavered as the world awaits the outcome of these talks.
J.D. Vance is heading to Pakistan. What do we know about?
Well, Emma, it's significant because of his seniority, of course, second most senior person in the administration. And secondly, there's been a lot of reporting that Vice President Vance actually was quite opposed to this war. He argued against it, according to significant reporting here in America, arguing that President Trump had been re-elected on the basis of withdrawing from foreign wars, America first. He did say, according to these reports in the New York Times, that he would support the administration or the government, whatever decision President Trump made. So that's significant. And also, he has reportedly had a very tense phone call with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu recently, in which he is alleged to have said that many of the predictions you made to us, to the Americans, about what would happen in Iran haven't come true. For example, that there'd be a popular uprising and the regime would fall. So it's significant that that man is now the chief negotiator. Let's have a listen to what he said a short time ago.
We're going to see what the Iranians are willing to give up. If they make a good faith effort to actually give us the things that we need to have a successful negotiation for the security of the American people, I think there's a lot on the other end. If they don't give us what we need, then I think it's going to be bad. But I'm optimistic that the Iranians are going to be smart, that they're going to negotiate in good faith.
And John, we're still hearing more reaction to Donald Trump's extraordinary threat ahead of the ceasefire announcement.
Well, that's right, where he talked about a civilization will die tonight. People such as the former Fox presenter Megyn Kelly, who's become a critic of this war, but she said Donald Trump, his negotiating tactic is to kill an entire country full of civilians, men, women and children. She told her podcast, she went on to say, questioning his negotiation skills, saying, is his way of negotiating to threaten a bunch of war crimes? And now some Republicans are starting to speak out as well. For example, Wisconsin Republican Senator Ron Johnson said, I do not want to see us start blowing up civilian infrastructure. So it's interesting that some Republicans now feel the need to come out and publicly criticise President Trump, something that wouldn't have happened 6 months ago.